its concern and care and love for the planets. It showers its love and energy and awareness and attention on the planets. It knows they're there. It's aware of them. It cares for them. It's concerned about them. By the same token, the planets are aware of the star around which they're orbiting, and aware of their subordinate status to it. And so I had that very, very real awareness. That is the kind of relationship that our home planet has to the sun, like that of a young, energetic piglet to the mother hawk that has birthed it and sustains it and gives it nourishment and protects it to a certain degree. And so yes, we do, as a species, a sentient species, not as sentient as we could or should be, and maybe will be in the future, but as a somewhat sentient species resident on a planet in a solar system orbiting around a parent star, we also are part of that feedback loop, and the parent star is aware of our presence on this planet and of what we are doing to it and to each other. And there is a karmic feedback loop.
Thank you again for your clarity and your vision. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Richard, you call for mankind to upwise. That is, we should strive for wisdom, creative nonviolence, peaceful cooperation with the natural planet and other humans of goodwill to combat the machine. Can you give us some practical day-to-day advice and perhaps some advice for us to pass on to less than aware family and friends to help them in the cause?
Yes, and the first thing I would say is that less than aware people may not be interested by definition, so that it may not be productive for us to waste a lot of time on them. Therefore, instead of worrying what they are doing and thinking, it's more productive for us to be about our own business, because ultimately I have to answer for myself and you have to answer for yourself. Neither you nor I have to answer for them. They will have to answer for themselves. Understanding these things in terms of practical actions, I would reiterate, pull your money out of the big banks. They are criminally corrupt. Don't aid and abet organized crime with your money. Pull your money out of the big banks. Don't go to war. War is nothing but industrial mass murder. So who in their right mind wants to be involved with that on any level? In terms of personal survival or personal karma or any other reason. So don't go to war. Thirdly, in my writings and in my interviews, I have pointed out that effectively this is the year of the Jubilee. Now, in ancient Judeo-Christian tradition, the year of the Jubilee was a periodic year in which debts were forgiven across the board on a societal-wide basis. So this is a time of forgiveness of all odious and onerous debts. Onerous debts, crushing debt, burdensome debt that can't be paid back, that cannot feasibly be paid back. Odious debts, illegal, immoral, unethical debts, where one party is not acting in good faith from the very beginning, and therefore the contract is null and void. And this principle is an ancient principle under Anglo-American jurisprudence, where one party to a contract enters into the agreement in bad faith, mendaciously. The contract is therefore null and void for that reason from the very beginning. So people are going to have to be creative in forgiving themselves of odious and onerous debts. The big banks aren't going to do it. The IRS is not going to do it. The Federal Department of Education isn't going to do it. The International Monetary Fund is not going to do it. The World Bank is not going to do it. So be it credit cards, mortgages, student loans, all of this, the slavers, the banksters won't free us. We will have to free ourselves. And we have to understand that this entire current economic system is a criminal slave system. Slaves who want to be free have to run away to freedom. Slave masters rarely, if ever, simply say, you know what, it makes me so sad that I'm a slave owner, so I'm going to free all of my slaves. Doesn't happen that way. So it's time for a Jubilee year. Do you want to be jubilant in your life? Do you want to have real Jubilee and glee back in your life again? Then you're going to have to free yourself. And I think that more and more people are saying this. Actually, millions. You see evidence of this already with here and there. People very creatively. I read an article here recently where a family went down and foreclosed on a bank. They tried to foreclose on their house, and it was an illegal foreclosure. So they went down to the bank and foreclosed on the bank with their attorney, and try to have and call the sheriff to chain the doors of the bank shut. I like their spunk. I like their spirit. I like their style. That is one kind of creative nonviolence. It's a kind of jiu-jitsu where you take the banksters' evil karma and boomerang it back against them. I think there's plenty of room for more people to do more and more of those kinds of things. And we have the case of people coming out of the universities with thousands of dollars, even tens of thousands of dollars of student debt. But you know what? The economy is crashing. There are no jobs for university graduates. So there you are. You come out of the university with $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 worth of debt. You have a university degree. You can't find a job. The federal government, the bank, whoever is saying you have to pay. And you say, I don't have any money. I don't have any job. And they say, you know, too bad. You must pay. We're going to force you to pay. You can see that the only way out of this situation is to run away, because the only other alternative is slavery, and no sane person can be a slave. No one who wants to be free can be a slave, and yet this is precisely the situation that millions of people are facing. I haven't exaggerated in the slightest. So these agencies, whether they're government agencies or financial organizations and institutions, Wall Street firms, banking houses, etc., make a living out of sucking our life juices. They get juiced off of us, so they'll never set us free. We have to force the issue, but in this sense, creatively and nonviolently, and free ourselves. That is just the way it is.
Thank you for that.
Richard, this is Vito, and I just wanted to thank you for your true passion that you have for mankind. It's wonderful what you do. And in this part of the interview, we're now going to move to the spirituality and life section. And earlier, you were noting the White Rose movement. I was wondering if you could expound upon it a bit, maybe a little of its prior history, but more importantly to me, what are their plans, if they are still in existence, for the immediate, near, and long-term future?
Yeah. First of all, let me say that for those who don't know what the White Rose is, the White Rose had their genesis in the Nazi period, back in the World War II era, in Nazi Germany itself. A group of very courageous university students and professors banded together quietly, secretly, because the Nazi regime was a very harsh totalitarian dictatorship. So they organized themselves very quietly and began peacefully leafleting against the war and against the Nazi totalitarian regime. They did this for a period of time until they were found out, they were discovered, and many of them were arrested, put in prison, tortured. Some of them were executed for opposing and for speaking out, not only against the war itself, but against the Nazi government as well. But that was a wonderful example of the white rose, and the symbol was the white rose. There have been others down the years since the World War II era who have similarly acted in the spirit of the white rose and adopted the ethic and the symbolism of the white rose for their actions and for their philosophy. I am one of those persons. I will tell you that then, as in now, there really is no central white rose organization in the sense that you would find presidents, vice presidents, a secretary, meetings with notes, a treasurer, and so forth. It's all completely decentralized and leaderless. If you place a white rose in your hand and you act peacefully, courageously, creatively, nonviolently, then you are a bona fide member of the White Rose. So there are no membership dues. You don't have to be voted in. There is no initiation. But you do know the White Rose by its blossom, so to speak, because its objective is always for peaceful relations between nations, always for a cessation of warfare, as well as for a free or freer social order within national boundaries.
Well, very good.
I would add to that peace and liberty are also things that the White Rose promotes, always nonviolently. And I would reiterate that you cannot bring peace to the world through warfare, which is nothing but industrial slaughter. That is a logical impossibility. I'm reminded of the words of the ancient Roman writer Tacitus, who remarked at one time upon observing the bloody excess of the Roman legions in action, that, and I quote, "They created a desolation and they call it peace." And that's what we're faced with. I'm not talking of creating peace through warfare or through violence. In fact, you can't. And that's the point that Tacitus was implicitly making. If you want a peaceful world, if you want a nonviolent social and international order, then the only way to achieve that is through creative nonviolence. The means and the methods that you employ will determine and create the end result you obtain.
Okay. Well, Richard, tell me, something I've been wondering for quite some time is there anything that you've learned of, for whatever reason, maybe your safety, you have not published in your works? And if there are any of these items, can you maybe hint at what those kind of things might be so as to awaken us so we can do some research on our own?
Yes, I have learned some things that I will not talk about.
Okay, fair enough. I'll pass the ball on now to Patrick.
This is Anki Bobby sitting